she really had to use the bathroom, but was too scared, so ended up, urinating on herself.
Oh my God, this is a nightmare. This is like way worse than I actually thought this was, dude. All right, I want to talk about something that I don't see too many people talking about around this Lizzo situation. There's been a lot to cover since I was last here. There's been the Mr. Beast drama. There's been the Reactgate stuff happening. But today, I want to talk about the Lizzo situation, which isn't really drama. It kind of got disguised as drama because of people that are kind of sticking by her side and saying this didn't happen, which is an odd thing. So we'll get into that a little bit. But I want to talk about what happened first. We'll dive into my approach from someone who also works in music. So first thing, what happened, and then I want to show you a video about the lawsuit.
Lizzo told Today she was looking for dancers who matched that message.
I finally had the platform to do an open call audition for girls who look like me.
But in a new lawsuit filed by 3 former dancers, Lizzo was accused of weight shaming. One of the dancers, Ariana Davis, says Lizzo called attention to her weight gain with thinly veiled concerns, though she never explicitly stated it.
I just had this feeling that they had a problem with the way I was gaining weight.
And I think this is where a lot of issues come at play. When you are someone of her popularity and you start to have a platform, because at which point then you kind of are in control of your own platform, but you have now all these extra people added into the situation that you never had before.
Davis filed the suit with Crystal Williams and Noel Rodriguez. They allege that at an after party at a strip club in Amsterdam where sexually explicit acts were taking place on stage, Lizzo began inviting cast members to take turns touching the performers.
I briefly touched the performer. I was very mortified.
Oh my God. And dude, the fact that she's like basically getting forced into doing that is disgusting. Why is everybody... There's been so many freaking disgusting situations. I mean, there's the Colleen Ballinger situation. There's been the Super Mega situation. There's this situation. Like, what? Can people just stop? Stop making people do sexual things that are very unwanted. You can just simply not do that, man. God, people are so gross.
Everyone burst into laughter.
It's something Davis says she didn't want to do, but felt pressured to do.
I did not ask for it. I said no multiple times.
According to the suit, the dancers also...
Dude, also, hey, when somebody says no, then don't make them do it, right?
To allege Lizzo falsely accused them of drinking alcohol before shows, and because of that, they were forced to audition for their jobs again.
She would pick and choose when she wanted to be professional and when she wanted things to be personal.
Both Williams and Davis say...
And this is where I want to get a little bit more into the discussion. So far we've seen a couple ways of how she's taken advantage of her platform, right? Now, when you have a platform, you have a lot of people behind you that follow you, and then no matter what you do, no matter what you say, they're going to stand by it, because there's people that follow people that don't want to think for themselves. When you get so ingrained into someone and so attached to them, she has like her own clothesline. She's got, her own brand, things like that, that people are now also hooked into. So it's that extra layer now of like, no matter what she does, says, I'm following along. And when you have that built up behind you, and then you can now use that to your advantage to say, oh, these people were drinking alcohol. Well, those people that like you so much can also just be like, yeah, she was doing that. And then online back you up. But, in real life that may or may not pass as well as it does on the internet. It could work in real, but the internet, just people, commenting, people leaving their 10 cents, it just adds up, and then it builds up a case for her, and it makes her seem believable until, this gets into the court of law and realize that, hey, this isn't the case. But it's, from the outside, without digging in too much, from the outside, it can look like she's in the right by saying that they drank alcohol, and a lot of people are going to believe that. But let's continue.
They were fired this past spring while Rodriguez resigned. In an interview, Davis also describing an interaction with Lizzo.
She proceeded to say, dancers get fired for gaining weight. You should basically be grateful to be here.
The trio is also suing Lizzo's production company.
Just to even say that, as someone who Lizzo came into her brand being someone standing by that, and then to turn around and say that behind closed doors, right? And I imagine that it was already so hard for these women to come out and say that, right? Because when you're just kind of not that they're a nobody, they were obviously part of her crew, but even that sets them a layer back from who Lizzo is, right? Like, you know who Lizzo is, but you don't necessarily know the names and the backstories of these. So it pulls them back a layer. So for them to speak up on this, it works in this situation because they're tied to her, but it also couldn't work. You know, there's also cases where people might look at that and not believe them and not let these women have this platform to speak out against this. So it's great that they've been able to speak out against this, because I think there's a lot more of the stuff that happens behind closed doors than we all realize, you know? Just because someone has a big platform and they have, you know, a big name and a big following doesn't mean they're this great person that does no wrongdoing. There's so much stuff you don't see behind closed doors. And, you know, to have a platform to speak out against it, I think is great. There's a TikTok we already mentioned that we're going to dive into in a second, but let's continue listening.
And her dance captain, Shirlene Quigley, accusing her of forcing her religious beliefs on them. Lizzo has not commented on the suit. The champion of positivity on stage, now accused of enabling a toxic work environment behind the curtain.
You go from preaching about sisterhood to then turning around and saying that it's a privilege that you know us by name.
Efforts by NBC News to reach Lizzo's production company were unsuccessful, and her dance captain, Shirlene Quigley, has not responded to our request for comment. We also want to point out not every claim in the lawsuit was brought against every defendant. I mean,
Lizzo's got such an online presence, Joe. What's been the reaction there? What are folks saying on the...
So after Lizzo posted to Instagram yesterday without referencing the controversy at all, many fans did react with dismay in the comments.
And now Lizzo responded to this. And let's see what Lizzo had to say about this. I'm not here to be looked at as a victim, but I also know that I am not the villain that people in the media have portrayed me to be these last few days. I am very open my sexuality and expressing myself, but I cannot accept or allow people to use that openness to make me out to be something I'm not. There's nothing I take more seriously than the respect we deserve as women in the world. I know what it feels like to be body shamed on a daily basis. So she just turned around and said the exact same thing to then hold up to her brand so that some people can turn around. And then the first comment here says, stop with the lies. How do you turn around and say that you're hurt after you just said what you said? You basically were saying, oh no, this stuff's not really true, so I'm okay. But then you turn around and say, oh, I'm hurt now. I will not let the good work I've done in the world be overshadowed by this. I don't think everyone's reached out to support to lift me. And that's exactly what I was talking about. Look at some of her fans were even saying, Lizzo, I'm not reading all this. Really kind of comes off as victim blaming. You know, it's like the Donald Trump thing.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
But it's like, yeah, what are you doing, man? Just going for the hope that people will turn around and stick with you. Now, this is another point of contention I want to talk about. Because of all this, the sad part is, you know, until this plays out a little more, I'll update you guys if something happens. But as for right now, and with a lot of these situations, kind of similar to the current Colleen Ballinger situation, really nothing's happened. I mean, she's lost followers. She's kind of losing some, fans. She's losing her platform a little bit. That's what happens, but like nothing serious comes of these situations, which is kind of sad. So I do hope with this situation and, like the Colleen Ballinger situation that some, serious things start happening here in the court of law. But let's dive into that. That's a great transition over to this TikTok.
All 37 pages of the lawsuit against Lizzo, her production company, and the captain of her dance squad. And wow, there is a lot in here. I want to try to just give you the highlights and also not get banned because some of this stuff is pretty wild. There are 9 different complaints in this lawsuit. Some of the complaints are all of the plaintiffs against all of the defendants being Lizzo, her production company, and her dance captain, Shirlene Quigley. And some of the complaints are just 1 or 2 of the plaintiffs against maybe 1 or 2 of the defendants. The first complaint is hostile work environment. The second complaint is failure to prevent and or remedy hostile work environment. Third is religious harassment.
Third is religious harassment. That is freaking nuts, dude. Like, you know, people, you have the right to believe whatever you want to believe, right? As long as it's not hurting other people. That's kind of what I go by. But man, when you're like just shoving your religious beliefs and taking your advantage of your religion that you don't even know other people believe in and using that against people to harass others, that is, ooh, that's where I think religion gets insane.
Fourth is failure to prevent and or remedy religious harassment. Fifth is racial harassment. Sixth is disability discrimination. Seventh is intentional interference with prospective economic.
Now, mind you, these are all just current complaints. These are nothing that's been, you know, totally done, and this is what it is. These are just the complaints that have been put against her. So I'm not saying that this is not true. I'm on the side of believing that this stuff is all true, because I don't think these people that are, I don't think these dancers are just going to come out with this stuff and think, man, I should just say this stuff. Like, this stuff has to happen for you to say it, right? You're not just going to just randomly say, I mean, some of this stuff you can't even just come up with on the spot. This is very real stuff.
8 is assault, and 9 is false imprisonment. So 2 of the dancers we met on Lizzo's show, Watch Out for the Big Girls, and the third dancer was hired a little bit later. And we also met the dance captain, Shirlene Quigley, who is named as a defendant in this suit. A lot of major claims in this lawsuit center around the dance captain, Shirlene Quigley, and it seems, according to this lawsuit, like she was just this uber religious woman, and she was constantly trying to like talk about the Lord and trying to convert people, and people were uncomfortable with it, and she was preaching about how
yeah, see, that's another angle of religion going way too far. And you're trying to, like, if you believe something, you don't have to push it on others. You can believe it and then just let it be. You don't have to. For instance, you know, I'm agnostic, but I'm not going to go to people and be like, yeah, you shouldn't think this. You should, you know, it's like, I can think that, but I don't have to tell other people about it.
marital sex was bad. And then when she found out one of the dancers in this lawsuit, Ariana Davis, was a virgin, she became like obsessed with this and would just like bring it up and talk about it all.
Oh my God, dude, it's like Colleen Ballinger, dude. Stop it. Why are we shaming people for this in 2023, dog? Who cares? Who freaking cares?
All the time, which obviously made her really uncomfortable. But then it's like really strange because then even though she's like uber religious and preaching all these things, she would also like talk about weird sexual things in front of them. And they said that she had this like what was called a party trick where she would use a banana to simulate, you know what I'm saying, with her mouth.
And that's the thing, man. It's like when you start getting into these conversations, I feel like not even some people that are even close friends talk about with one another, right? Like, it's very few people that actually have these discussions with one another. So when you're in a professional environment, that's already enough of a reason to not talk about it. It's already enough of a reason just to not talk about it in general. So when you're talking about it in the middle of a professional situation, in a business matter, and just it's just gross overall, and no matter what. Unless the person consents to having these kinds of conversations and is down for this kind of thing. But man.
And it was like a thing she did. They say in this lawsuit that it didn't stop there with Quigley, and that like in addition to like doing this like faux simulation with the banana, she would talk about how like pleasing yourself, you know, is against her religion. But then she'd be like, but oops, today I had an oopsie, which is just like strange. And they said like that, you know, she would talk about these sort of like sexually explicit comments so much that the entire dance team knew that her fantasy was having, let me see how I can put this, 10 eggplants in her face. They all knew this apparently.
Okay, that's a lot of people to come out and say they know about that, right? Like you cannot make that up.
Another of the allegations in the suit is that after performances, Lizzo would invite the dancers out for a night on the town. And then one night in Amsterdam, she had this whole event like in the red light district at this like club where there was like nude cabaret performers. And Ariana Davis says that like, you know, she really didn't want to participate, but like she was being egged on and basically forced to, you know, touch the breast of one of the performer, even though she didn't want to. So what the dancers allege in the suit is
Oh my God. Now, I know I already talked about this, but just don't do that, man.
that, like, even though they didn't want to go to these places and they felt uncomfortable, they felt they had to for job security, because they said it was just sort of this like unspoken, thing that dancers who participated in these extracurriculars got preferential treatment by Lizzo and had more job security. Now, where the racial discrimination comes in, the dancers say,
and at the end of the day, I don't think she should be taking advantage of her platform and treating these people, giving them that extra special treatment, because as human beings, when you're given that extra like special treatment that maybe someone else who's not connected to her has, you feel like you have an advantage over anyone else, right? So when you're in that position, you're just used to just going with whatever they're saying, and you get in this routine of like, cool, I'm part of this too, so I'm just going to do this too, because she's given me the ability and given me the platform to do this kind of thing. So really, at the end of the day, as people, you kind of just go with what's being said, and you don't really think too much. And I think that's the saddest part about it, and so it shows that Lizzo's completely taking advantage of that.
That the management team was mostly white people, and that the production team treated the black members of the dance team differently than other members, and that allegedly they accused the black members of the dance team of being lazy, unprofessional, and having bad attitude.
God, dude. It is like the most classic of racism cases there. What is wrong with you? Have you lived freaking under a rock?
So then, according to this lawsuit, they get back from the European part of this tour, and Lizzo's just unhappy with all the dancers and says everyone has to re-audition, and your jobs aren't safe, and if I don't like the way you audition, you're going to be fired. And that this audition allegedly turned into this 12-hour day.
I don't think she should have the power, in my opinion, to tell these people they have to re-audition, and that they're just have the power to say whatever she wants because it's her brand after all. I think it should have some other people take another side and take another look at this and say, hey, maybe do they need to re-audition, and look at that and say, no, they don't, and not just have her be the one to say they do, because she can also just simply be wrong, and she's wrong in this case, and there's nothing to challenge her. There's nobody there that challenges this situation, and then we get into this sticky business
where the dancers just felt scared to even leave the stage or they were gonna get fired. So the one dancer, Davis, said she really had to use the bathroom but was too scared, so ended up urinating on herself.
Oh my God, this is a nightmare. This is way worse than I actually thought this was, dude. They rightfully so did that. Do you know what I mean? If you feel scared to go use a restroom, that tells you how scared of Lizzo they felt, because they felt like she's taking advantage of them. So who knows what the hell's going to happen to them if they, heaven forbid, they leave the room. Maybe there's some other stuff that she said behind closed doors that also made them feel twice as scared to just simply walk out of a room, let alone lock themselves in another room, because who knows what she's going to do to them, especially with assault mentioned here. So that's, oh my God, dude, I cannot imagine.
And where the assault and false imprisonment comes in. So two of the dancers, Davis and Williams, were fired, and it was kind of embarrassing how they did it. They kind of did it publicly. And the other dancer, Rodriguez, didn't really like how that all went down. So she approached Lizzo and was like, I need to have a talk to you about how you handle the situation. And according to Rodriguez in this complaint, she said that Lizzo got really aggressive, approached her, cracking her knuckles, balling her fists, and exclaiming, "You're lucky, you're so effing lucky." And she says that she believes that.
And if you're in her, I know I keep saying this, but if you're in her position of power, you should never, my God, never tell anyone that they're lucky to be here. That's a tactic that's used across this industry, and I think this is where, my 10 cents probably comes in. You're in the music industry and you tell someone they're lucky, this can be seen in a lot of different lights, right? You can tell someone you're lucky to be here for what you're getting paid. You're lucky to be here for maybe if you're not getting paid, and you're just lucky to be here in general. This can be used to manipulate people that work under you in the music industry. When I first started doing this stuff, I've luckily never had people tell me that, but I've had situations that are close to that, especially when I first started, when you're doing free work, where it's like people are like, you'd be lucky just to be here, to be at this show kind of thing. So I don't know why you wouldn't come out and do this for free kind of thing. And, music specifically, when you're not a big deal in the music world, then it's crazy that people tell you that already in that circumstance. Now, when you're in a bigger circumstance like this and you have someone telling you you're lucky, you automatically see the following count and you know the count. So you kind of justify that in your own head, like, you know what, she's right. I am lucky. And that's where you believe this stuff. And it's crazy. Someone that has as big of a fan base as her, and then the second you're like, yep, I am lucky, you're just gonna roll with it because you know deep down you're thinking, I am lucky. But you're not. She's just like another artist that is taking advantage of you. But they just mentioned they're too scared to even, bat an eye against her, because who knows what's going to happen, especially she's throwing up her fists. I mean, dude, holy smokes. I mean, look at this. Even Joe Biden unfollowed her. This is like some crazy shit.
That Lizzo intended to hit her and would have done so if one of the other dancers hadn't intervened. And then the false imprisonment comes because Davis said that, she had been accused of she had recorded a conversation that had happened, but she said that, she has this anxiety disability where she can't really process it in the moment. She needs to record things and listen to it later. And the management team and Lizzo were like, you recorded this conversation, got mad. So when they fired her, they allegedly kept her in this room, went through her phone until they could see that she had deleted the file. There's still so much more to unpack with this lawsuit. And now I'm also seeing that other dancers are posting in their stories, sort of corroborating what the dancers in this lawsuit are saying and saying they had similar experiences. So I'm going to keep sharing more as I get. TMZ has gotten footage of Ariana Davis praising Lizzo. Ariana is one of the dancers suing Lizzo, and this video footage is from April 2023, and apparently Ariana was auditioning for season 2 of Watch Out for the Big Girls. So in this video from April 2023, Ariana says she's auditioning to be a singer. She says that she's been a dancer for the past year and that it's been great and that she looks up to Lizzo and wants to be like her, but she wants to audition as a singer. And now Lizzo's lawyer, Marty Singer, is saying, these don't sound like the words of someone who was harassed and discriminated against. So now we really need to know when exactly in April 2023 that audition tape was recorded, because I went back to the lawsuit, and April 20th, 2023, according to this lawsuit, is when there was that 12-hour audition that Ariana says that she was too scared to leave the stage and ended up soiling herself. And then April 21st, 2023, according to this lawsuit, is when Ariana was called into that meeting to, kind of discuss her weight. They didn't talk specifically about the weight, but it was being inferred, and where she says she had to admit to her binge eating.
That's so cringe, dude. Oh, that's so horribly cringe. You should not have to admit to that in any situation, or let alone not even just admit, but just bring that up. No one should put you in a point of pressure. You even have to bring that. No one should even put pressure on you like this, right? These are, again, things that, maybe you and just your parents or you and your closest friend know. These aren't things that you're out auditioning, telling people.
Disorder and anxiety. And then according to this lawsuit, when they were confronted about the secret recording that was made, it was apparently made on April 27th, 2023. Ariana admitted to making the recording, saying because of her disability, she needed to record this. And then I believe she was terminated around maybe May 3rd, May 4th. According to TMZ, Ariana made those comments about praising Lizzo after the European leg of the tour. Now, the European leg of the tour is when allegedly the strip club, the cabaret club, the banana incidents happen. And TMZ says that those allegations involved alleged incidents before she shot this interview video for the second season of Watch Out for the Big Girls. Now that Lizzo's lawyer is involved, there's definitely going to be some duking it out happening in the court of public opinion before it even makes it, if it even makes it to actual court.
And this kind of brings me to the final point of the video here. It really is crazy to see that this may not even make it to the actual court of law, which I think it's insane because it definitely should make it to the court of law. I just find this stuff so crazy. I mean,
Lizzo, other creators who have worked with Lizzo are sharing their stories as well. Sophia Allison says she worked on Lizzo's documentary for about 2 weeks before walking away. She says, I usually don't comment on anything pop culture related, but in 2019, I traveled a bit with Lizzo to be the director of her documentary. I walked away after about 2 weeks. I was treated with such disrespect by her. I witnessed how arrogant, self-centered, and unkind she is. I was not protected and was thrown into a shitty situation with little support. You can pause to read the rest of this, but then she followed it up with another story. She says, to be clear, since I've spoken...
This is insane, man. So I think what happens is, like, when you have too much money in your hands, you just think, well, I can do whatever. I can do anything. And, you know, like I said, people oftentimes don't face actual repercussions for this kind of thing. But let's continue what she has to say.
I've had others privately share their very similar experiences, and I've also been affirmed by people who witnessed what I went through. Lizzo creates an extremely toxic and hostile working environment and undermines the work, labor, and authority of other Black and brown women in the process. Notice how the documentary ended up being directed by a cis white man. Sophia goes on to say, she is a narcissistic bully and has built her brand off of lies. I was excited to support and protect a Black woman through the documentary process, but quickly learned her image and message was a curated facade. I stand with the dancers and anyone who has had similar experiences working with her and her team. These working conditions are not okay. A makeup artist who also has worked with Lizzo also posted a story saying, I've seen that some folks have recently gone the route of suing a popular musician who they were employed by because of mistreatment. She says, I wasn't strong enough to move that way, but sometimes I wish I would have. I never wanted to be the squeaky wheel, but I'm still empowered tonight by those who are. She ended by saying, ego is a treacherous demon. Still no comment from Lizzo's camp yet.
I think there's going to be more stories that come forward out of this, and her team is still going to stay silent in the matter. But I think this is a good time to, you know, say that people's voices are important. I think your voice is very important and matters. So as soon as you see something, you ever see that thing that says you see something, say something? If you see something, say something. If it's happened to you, frickin' say it, because, you know, it helps other people. It prevents situations like this from happening. That's not to say that, you know, I'm going to blame other people now, blame these other artists for, why didn't you speak up? Like, people are afraid to speak up, right? But, you know, if it's happened to you, talk about it, and it can prevent hundreds of other situations from happening down the line and stop these freaking evil people. So this is quite a sad situation. But if you guys enjoyed this video and you guys want to hear more from me, hit that subscribe button. Curious what you guys want to hear about, so let me know in the comments what you want me to talk about. I'll talk to you guys later.